What was the perfect Heian beauty? Murasaki, Shikibu, and Shonagon write in detail about what beauty was in their time. People of the Heian period looked a lot different from you and I. So much so that period dramas, such as the one that's on Japanese television right now, and also festivals which showcase Heian period dress, don't accurately portray what Heian period men and women look like, only what Edo period men and women thought Heian period men and women look like. So in this episode, let's discover what contemporary writers tell us was the perfect Heian beauty, and what did they look like? We'll also talk about the beauty regimes of men and women in the aristocratic family, and what they had to go through in order to be acceptable at court. My research comes from Takashima Katsuko-san's new book, Heian Fashion no Sekai, and from the translated works of Murasaki Shikibu and Shonagon. We'll get a better idea about that beautiful woman Kino Haseo wins in that Bansuguroku game. Go here if you don't know what I'm talking about, and then come back. Now, we're going to be talking about beauty standards from 1,000 years ago, so it shouldn't be triggering, but we are going to talk about all of this. So if you think that it will be triggering, we'll just see you in the next episode, okay? You're beautiful the way you are, all right? Now, what was the perfect Heian beauty? Murasaki Shikibu writes in very great detail about some of the ladies at court she got along with, and some she probably didn't. Shonagon mostly writes about herself and how she did not match up to the standards. Using their words, we're going to discuss 3 points of the Heian beauty: the body, the face, and the hair. So we'll start with the body and go from there. What did Murasaki Shikibu say about girth and stature? She writes about a Lady Dainagon. Lady Dainagon is petite, one might also say small, pale and lovely, a little plump perhaps, but always very well dressed, and on a Lady Saisho. Lady Saisho has a plump but compact figure and looks very shrewd. She improves greatly upon further acquaintance. Basically, to be small and petite was the best. If a lady was under 150 centimeters, then that was the perfect height for a Heian beauty. If you look at this picture, this woman looks really small next to this man, doesn't she? In order to appear smaller, a lady would walk on her knees rather than on her feet. The walk still survives today, sort of. It is used during the Juni Stoe dressing ceremony and also other aristocratic dressing ceremonies today. I asked the Heian Shozoku Kocho no Kai about how to do this walking style, with mixed results. The walk really hits you in the outside of your calves, and the sliding you have to do requires a lot of practice to get right. Not only was small and petite stature preferred, but the perfect Heian beauty was also slightly plump. In the Heian period, skinny women, especially with bone showing, was considered sickly and ill. A plumpy woman meant that she was getting a healthy diet, but also that she was rich enough to get a healthy diet. However, Murasaki Shikibu tells us of another Lady Shikibu. Lady Shikibu is chubby, fat even. So what about the face? For facial features, we get an excerpt from Shonagon about what her close friend Fujiwara no Yukinari preferred. I wouldn't mind if a woman's eyes stood upright in her head, nor if her eyebrows spread all over her forehead and her nose were crooked, provided she had a good mouth and a fine chin and neck. A bad voice I couldn't, of course, stand. But come to think of it, faces are rather important. It is unpleasant when people are ugly. In a very cringy conversation between the two, reported by Shonagon, I am afraid there has been a good deal of talk lately about our being so friendly. Well, suppose we are. I don't see anything to be ashamed of. I think by this time you might uncover your face and so on. I daren't, I answered. I have heard how particular you are about the shape of people's chins, and mine is very ugly. Is it really? He asked seriously. I had no idea of that. Perhaps after all you had better not let me see you." After this, I always covered my face on any occasion when he could possibly have seen me, but I noticed that he never looked my way, and it seemed clear that he had taken what I said about my own ugliness quite seriously. In her diary, Murasaki Shikibu comments on the features of 12 court ladies in all, some of them seeming to have a little more worth to comment on than others. However, when I read the passage, I do get a feeling that she really tried to leave a positive comment for everyone, but I also get the feeling that there are a couple of women in that passage that she didn't get along with.
Kohyoue and Shoni are also very attractive.
That's all she says about them. Murasaki Shikibu tells us a lot about the beautiful face. Lady Saisho has a most attractive smile that plays around the corners of her mouth. Miya no Naishi is also very attractive. Everything, the shape of her head, her hair, her forehead, surprises with its beauty. Gosechi no Ben has the kind of face you see in paintings, with a very broad forehead and narrow eyes. Essentially, the perfect Heian Beauty had a prominent forehead, eyes big and bright, nose small, and mouth slight. There was such a thing as having too much of a prominent forehead, as this would make the shape of the face longer. A longer forehead and chin were undesirable, like in Fujiwara no Yukinari's preference in women's faces.
But now, here are things about the perfect Heian Beauty that Murasaki Shikibu does not report on, and say Shonagon does only in passing when being harassed by the men at court. How did women accentuate their face?
First of all, white faces were preferred. Not Snow White, as that was bluish white, and blue people were sick people. Don't tell the Blue Man Group. Oh, and not greenish either, as that was... And also, people with red noses could not play in reindeer games. You know, like Rudolph. Yeah, no red noses. But why the white faces? Well, half of the reason was that to be tan was to be of the working class. But the other half of the reason was that buildings inside were dark, and white faces showed up better in the darkness.
To be more visible, women and men, yes, and men, would paint on oshiro. As you can imagine, this stuff was toxic since it was made with lead. And they didn't get that the stuff was toxic not until about the 18th century, when people were trying to figure out why kabuki actors kept passing away at an early age.
Don't worry.
The oshiro they put on you during fancy kimono dressing experiences is the non-toxic version. Rest assured, there's no lead in that now.
You're okay. You're okay. You're okay, I promise. In court, you were not to show any emotion, and you were to remain a kind and cheerful countenance. Y'all, I wouldn't be able to do that. I would become some sort of a danger kitty. Possibly some men and women weren't able to do that either, so they got rid of the one thing that would give them away. The eyebrows. Pluck them suckers right off. Courtiers believed that the eyebrows were the root to all emotion, and so they had to go. Instead, they drew them in with charcoal way up on the prominent forehead in order to disguise their thoughts. When Murasaki Shikibu says of ladies like Lady Dainagon, she has intelligent features and acts in a most charming and graceful manner, I think that they knew how to hide things well. I wonder what Murasaki Shikibu would say about me.
Nanshun is also very attractive.
Finally, the lips were painted red, and were drawn in a way to be narrow and small. Plumpiness was not for the lips. Lastly, the teeth were blackened, called ohaguro, and this was proven to ward off tooth decay. The practice of ohaguro would continue on until the Meiji period, when it was stopped because a proper Western person did not have pearly black teeth, but pearly white teeth. When you saw the colors of the Heian period face, the white, the black, the red, These colors would become the Meretai colors, or the colors of celebration and ceremony in Japan. But especially wearing makeup would become a social status symbol that would extend on into the samurai class. Not shown in period dramas are Sengoku period warlords going out into battle in full makeup. Just in case they lost, they wanted to appear high status in their last moments. But that meaning is sort of lost to us today. Lastly, what does Murasaki Shikibu report on ladies' hair?
Her hair falls 3 inches past her heels. Her hair has a magnificent sheen, but it cannot be that long, for she comes to court with an additional hairpiece attached. Her hair is beautiful. It used to be thicker than it is now, and over a foot longer than she was. Her hair used to fall just beyond the hem of her robes. But her hair, which used to be over a foot longer than she was and seemed almost too thick the spring I first saw her, is now extraordinarily thin in places. I don't give 2 flips about my hair that much, I'm sure you can tell, so I can't really understand how insanely important hair was to the perfect Heian Beauty. Her hair took up the bulk of her time.
In Heian Fashion no Sekai, author Takashima-san gives an anecdote that was very interesting to me. At a time when long flowing hair was the style in the late Showa period, we'll say about the 60s or 70s here, Takashima-san wanted to cut her hair into a bob. Her mother was completely against it, saying, "Kami wa onna no inochi," which means hair is a woman's life, or maybe life force or essence in this case. This idea echoes back to the Heian period, where hair was absolutely everything. Its sheen, its thickness, and its straightness were all meticulously cared for.
This was such a big thing that the costume museum in Kyoto goes into what they had to do for hair in great detail. Thanks to them, I can imagine how much stress the hair-making regime would have been. First of all, women's hair had to be straight, and women spent hours and hours brushing and combing it. I really felt bad for this doll not being able to achieve straight hair. Some of us are just not naturally designed like that.
And then, their hair was miles long. By the time a Heian lady was 16 years old, her hair would have grown 2 meters in length. From what I read to you in Murasaki Shikibu's diary, she found it absolutely necessary to mention a woman's hair length.
As we said in the last video, men could not show their hair at all, and were required to wear it in a mage and cover it in either an eboshi during casual settings and a kan during more formal gatherings.
And then there was hair washing day, the most intensive day in the life of Heian people. Men and women could not wash their hair unless an onmyoji fortune teller said so. Why? Well, washing hair led to bad omens, which we know of as getting ill from a chill. Onmyoji looked through their charts to determine favorable hair washing days, which was usually about once a month. Once the okay was given, you can imagine everybody being out washing their hair.
The peasantry would wash their hair in nearby rivers, but the aristocrats were not able to go outside, so they used this. This bowl is filled with togijiru, leftover water after washing rice for cooking. This was good for cutting through oils in the hair.
The togijiru was poured over the head, worked in, and then patted away with a cloth. Since they didn't have hair dryers, just drying the hair had to have taken forever. And then after that, it's back to brushing, brushing, brushing. No wonder some ladies' hair got thinner. Oh, hey! Hey, if you're not already, please subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss future episodes of Japanese history, culture, and koldam. Also, please like this video too. It takes a smidgen of a millisecond to do so. Also, if you enjoy episodes of Japanese history, culture, and koldam, please buy me coffee. Cool. Thank you so much. Let's get back to the conclusion. You know what? fair enough. Nobody's going to watch a period drama in which the characters look different than what we do today. The Heian aristocrats did look a little clownish to our modern day standards. However, it's good to know that a Heian beauty and an Edo beauty are different, and it's the Edo beauty that we see today. I think everybody can stomach an Edo beauty over a Heian beauty. But for me, the history is important, and that's why I like looking into these things.
Next time I go somewhere like the Aoi Festival, I know that what they're wearing and how they look is not historically accurate, but that's okay because the Aoi Festival helps me remember and reflect on the history instead.
But that's all I have for today. See you next time.
極度南春でございました。